And yesterday, the International Energy Agency published the October 2023 oil market report, which shows that Nigeria's crude oil production has risen to 1.35 million barrels per day on average, which is the highest level in 20 months. To discuss the implications of this improved oil output, I have Damilare Shimiu, macroeconomic strategist at AfriInvest Research and Consulting, joining me via Zoom from Ikoyi. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Ladi. Thanks for having me.
So tell me, how significant is this news, especially against the backdrop of persistent FX liquidity, and what effect should the news have on the economy and the markets?
Yeah, thank you once again, Ladi, for having me on this show. Let me start by saying that if we look at where we're coming from, right, the improved oil output number is an encouraging one. The report shows that Nigerian output in September was 1.35 million barrels on average per day, which is higher than any other time in the last 19 months. And if you add that number to the output that came out as condensate as well, we're producing roughly about 1.6 million barrels. So in terms of improvements over the recent months, that is a welcoming one, especially as this current administration has committed to securing oil flows in the Niger Delta. But if we now look from the context of the impact on the economy, which is the crux of your question, I think it's just a right step in the right direction, and we are still not yet there. Because historically, Nigeria economy, or let me say Nigeria do benefit more from oil when our output is sizable. I mean, in the region of 1.7 million barrels upward. So the Nigerian economy is more responsive to improved output. And that is why most time our budget benchmark for oil is always in the region of 1.6 million barrel upward. For 2023, our benchmark was 1.69 on average. And if you look at the ground we have lost, between January and now, there was never any time that crude oil production without condensate has reached this level. So meaning that we have lost a lot of ground. And even though oil price this year has averaged above our budget benchmark of $75 per barrel, there's no gainsaying the fact that the loss in terms of what should have accrued to the economy in terms of earnings from oil might not be recovered. But we think that if this momentum is sustained, if we can continue to improve on the production, it will begin to impact the economy gradually in the near term. Now, speaking now to the impact on the economy, we do not really expect any near-term impact of this. Like I said, the volume is still short of what our budget benchmark is. In fact, in periods when Nigeria was able to build its reserves from sale of crude oil in the 2008 period, 2009, 2011, in those periods, we're producing oil in the region of 2.3 million barrels per day. And that is when you begin to see the significant impact of improved oil production. So this coming at a time where the CBN also yesterday announced that the 43 items that was banned from accessing FX in the market, I mean, the time the CBN is reversing that decision, it means that we need more FX. And if you look at the three major sources of FX to Nigeria, you talk of remittance, you talk of proceeds from oil, you talk of capital importation. Maybe except for remittance that have been resilient in the recent years. Capital importation has been very dismal. The last quarter was barely about $1 billion, where in 2019, in each quarter, we are doing almost 7-8 billion. So oil now is now like the second lifeline Nigeria is having, and we cannot do ourselves any better than ramping up production to improve FX flow, because now that the CBN has lifted ban on those 43 items, there will be surge in demand in the official window. And if the CBN is not able to supply adequately, then the anticipated gain from that policy might not come, because the stabilization of the FX rate that is expected to follow that move might not come. And that is why it is very important that we are getting it right in terms of producing more oil and curbing the activity of sabotage in the oil-rich region.
Sure, right now to meet our quotas at this time, but what mechanisms should be put in place to minimize the fluctuation in domestic crude oil production permanently?
Yeah, thank you, Ladi. So in terms of policy environment, right, what is actually lacking, or what has been the bane of our stable and large oil production is one, what I would describe as lack of political will and weak institution. And Bradley mentioned earlier that in during 2008-2009 period, when we're able to build our reserves to almost 60 billion level due to high oil output and higher oil price. One of the things that work for us is that the cases of oil theft in the oil region is minimal, or perhaps maybe does not even exist in some cases. But from recent revelations, from activities of the security agencies, we're meant to know that almost half of what Nigeria is producing daily is what is being stolen, and you cannot continue in that way. So basically, our institutions, especially the security agencies, need to be more committed in discharging their rules. We have a lot of oil-producing countries last year that smiled to the bank just because oil price rose to an average of over $100 billion per barrel, whereas Nigeria economy, experienced a reverse. The contribution of oil to our budget revenue last year was barely around $1 billion. Well, barely around 1 trillion naira rather, where our expectation was around 2.5. So meaning the oil revenue underperformed by almost 70%. So we need the security agencies to up their game, and also the political will. One of the things that has helped, this improved level we saw in September is the fact that the current administration is doing everything it thinks it can do to ensure that oil produced are not stolen, and that is what we need. We need to enhance the capacity of our institution to protect our asset, because, for example, in countries like Saudi Arabia, for every drop of oil that moves from their oil rigs to wherever it is going to, they monitor it. So we need to advance to that level, and that is the only time we can have a permanent solution to oil theft in this part of the world.
And just a few days ago, the managing director of the NNPC Limited, Mr. Melik Kyari, announced that NNPC had returned, to be the sole importer of PMS due to FX liquidity. What impact do you think this development will have on the market?
Please highlight. Can you hear me?
Oh, fantastic! I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
So I guess it was just a network glitch. So exactly. What I was saying is that it's never a good thing to have a monopoly of supply of any commodity. There are always significant downside to it. In recent years, when this NNPC had been the sole importers of oil to Nigeria, we can count cases of period where we have problem of oil shortage, oil supply in the country, because since NNPC is the sole provider, if there's any glitch on their side, then the whole nation will feel the effect. But looking at the situation we have now, where we have inadequate FX supply, I would advise that the decision of the NNPC returning to be the sole importer just be a temporary one, whereby the moment our FX supply begins to improve, the other independent importers should be allowed to do that for two main reasons. One, it reduces the risk of supply disappearance or supply shortage, and also the independent importers that are being deprived the opportunity of importing oil now would have problem in running their business. And this is an economy where we have unemployment to be at a very high level. So by and large, the signaling from the CBN, especially with the lifting of reversing of ban on 43 items that do not have access to the official window, is that Nigeria FX situation will begin to improve. And we have seen some other moves too. We have seen moves to get loan of about 3 billion from Afrexim Bank. We have seen that the Nigerian government has also taken almost 1.9 billion loan from the World Bank in terms of trying to beef up our foreign reserve. And we are also blocking loopholes in terms of means by which our oil are being stolen. So if you can begin to pump more, we hand more, it will be better that the importation of oil be decentralized than in the medium to long term than being left in the hand of the CBN, the NNPC, because of risk of supply, especially if there's any concern with the NNPC.
Right, so much to unpack then and address oil market. But what is your outlook for the global oil market, and how do you think it would impact, the Nigerian economy?
Concerning the outlook for the oil market, the outlook is not really very rosy in terms of I want to look at the demand level. as the global economy was recovering from the pandemic of 2020, there came Russia-Ukraine war last year, which had negative knock-on effects on global growth and demand level. And as if that was not all, we are now having the Russia-Hamas war, Israel-Hamas war. And if you look at that region, it's a very critical region in the global landscape, because more about 2/3 of the world waterways are within that region. So an escalation of that crisis will significantly affect oil supply. Price might go up. Yes, you may think that might be good for oil exporting countries like Nigeria, but the negative consequence is that it will affect growth in the economies. And the moment it affects growth, especially major oil buyers like India, China, then demand will fall. And like I mentioned earlier, Nigerian economy, or in terms of gain, Nigeria benefits more when our output is higher and we're able to sell it than when price is high and we don't have enough output. Last year, oil price was over $100 on average, but our revenue from it was dismal, partly because of subsidy and partly because of the fact that when we produce more, it helps offset other costs that is associated with oil production. So by and large, in terms of demand for oil output, the outlook, especially between now and 2024, looks a bit bleak because of the crises that are emanating in critical regions of the world, which we do not even know how soon those crises will come to an end.
Right, I'm definitely hoping for de-escalation with all of these crises going on right now. Thank you so much, Damilare Oshimiyu, macroeconomic strategist, Afri-Invest Research and Consulting. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on the show.